The outpost floated above the frozen moon like a lonely watchtower. Its towers shone with weak blue lights, and its metal walls creaked under the endless cold. For weeks, the soldiers stationed there had heard only silence on their scanners. The stars looked quiet. The systems showed nothing. Yet every man and woman there felt something in their chest, a warning that silence was never safe when it came to deep space. Inside the control tower, alarms suddenly blinked red. A young officer rushed to the main screen and froze. Strange signals flooded in. Dozens of contacts appeared where there had been none before. They were moving fast, too fast for trade ships, too strong for smugglers. His voice cracked as he called out, "Unidentified fleet entering system. They are not ours." The commander stepped forward, eyes narrowing. She had seen war before. Her gut told her this was no mistake, no lost group of travelers. She ordered shields raised and weapons armed, but the outpost was not built for war. It was meant for watching, not fighting. Its guns were small, its fleet tiny. It was a lantern standing before a hurricane. Through the frozen black came ships of alien design. Long and jagged, like blades forged in darkness, they slid toward the outpost with purpose. They did not answer calls. They did not share signals. They only opened fire. The first volley struck the outer towers, tearing them apart in a storm of fire. Metal shrieked as if the station itself screamed. Men and women fell from their posts as the walls shook. Panic spread through the outpost. Some tried to fight back, sending missiles and energy fire toward the invaders. The blasts only scratched the alien shields. Others rushed to escape pods, but the docking bays were the first to fall. Explosions lit up the icy moon below, its surface glowing red from falling debris. Inside the control tower, the commander kept her voice calm even as fire rained outside. She ordered a signal sent to Earth. Outpost under attack. Heavy losses. Alien fleet confirmed hostile. This is no raid. This is war. Her voice did not tremble, but her eyes burned with anger. The young officer beside her whispered, "Why us? Why here?" She did not answer. She knew the truth. The aliens had chosen this outpost because it was weak. They thought they could strike humanity in the dark and laugh, while Earth remained blind. They thought humans would cry, beg, or hide. The message pulsed across the void, bouncing through relay stations. Every second mattered. The outpost's life was measured in minutes. The aliens moved closer, filling the view screens with their jagged ships. Their weapons glowed with cruel light, ready to finish the kill. One section of the outpost broke apart, venting soldiers into space. Their screams vanished in silence as the void swallowed them whole. The commander gritted her teeth and stood tall, even as sparks rained from the ceiling. She shouted to her crew, "Hold the line! As long as this tower stands, humanity knows we fought." The aliens swarmed. Their fire pierced the heart of the outpost, tearing engines and power cores apart. The blue lights dimmed to nothing. Darkness crept through the halls. Only the control tower remained, its windows burning with red warning glow. The young officer clutched his console, fingers bleeding from the sparks. Message sent. "Earth has it," he gasped. Relief touched his face for a second before another blast shook the tower. The commander placed a hand on his shoulder and nodded. That was enough. Humanity knew. Through the fire, the alien ships drew closer. One ship broke formation, pulling beside the shattered station like a predator ready to strike. Its weapons aimed at the control tower. The alien commander aboard sneered, staring at the small band of humans who refused to die quietly. With a wave of his hand, he ordered the final strike. Inside the tower, the crew braced. Some closed their eyes. Some prayed. The commander simply stood tall and looked straight at the enemy. Her last words carried on an open channel, voice sharp and steady. "You think this ends here? You have no idea what you have begun." The alien ship fired. The control tower shattered in light. Screens broke, walls caved. The outpost that had guarded the frozen moon for years was gone in a storm of fire and steel. Pieces drifted into the void, glowing faintly before the cold swallowed them whole. For a moment, silence returned. The aliens moved among the wreckage, dragging away pieces of human tech as trophies. Laughter echoed through their comms, cruel and careless. They believed they had won. They believed humanity would never dare strike back. Yet in the dark, far from the wreckage, a relay station blinked. The Outpost's final transmission pulsed forward, carrying the truth across light years. It reached listening posts near Mars. It reached command centers under Earth's oceans. It reached the ears of men and women who had sworn never to let humanity fall. Earth now knew. And Earth never forgot. In the alien flagship, one officer shifted uncomfortably. He had seen records of human wars, tales of entire armies burned to ash, stories whispered in fear across the stars. He turned to his commander and muttered, "Do you even understand what you have done?" The commander laughed, dismissing him with a wave, but deep inside the young alien's chest tightened. Something told him this victory was nothing but the spark of a storm that would soon sweep across the galaxy. The stars outside glowed with calm light, but beneath that calm waited fire. Humanity had heard the scream of its dying outpost. Now the galaxy would hear humanity's answer. The great council chamber rose like a mountain of glass and steel. Thousands of alien representatives filled the seats, their voices clashing in waves of arrogance and laughter. The burning of the human outpost played across a giant holodisplay above them. Explosions shimmered in the air, frozen at the moment the station cracked apart. For many in the chamber, it was a sign of triumph. For a few, it was the sound of disaster yet to come. The presiding speaker, tall and scaled, raised his hands. His voice thundered across the chamber. The human outpost is gone. Their fleet is weak. Their colonies are scattered. Let this be a lesson to those who would challenge the council. Humanity is no more than dust under our feet. Applause shook the walls. Rows of alien delegates hissed and laughed. Some slammed their staffs against the ground, filling the chamber with noise like a storm, but not everyone laughed. In the shadows of the chamber, a smaller figure leaned forward. Her eyes burned with warning. She was old, older than most of the delegates combined, and her voice cut through the noise like steel. You celebrate too soon. Humanity is not like others. They do not forgive. They do not forget. You think you struck at a single outpost, but you struck at the pride of an entire species. And you will learn what that means. The crowd jeered. One delegate shouted, "They are weak. They are young. Their warships are crude machines, their armies fragile flesh. They cannot touch us." Another rose, mocking, "We broke their station as if it were a child's toy. Let them cry. Let them send their tears to Earth. We will burn their home next if they dare speak back." The chamber roared with cruel laughter. Above them, the holodisplay shifted again, showing Earth as a blue and green sphere, fragile and small. The presiding speaker pointed at it. "This is their world. Look at it. A garden planet, peaceful, soft. It has no teeth, no claws. If they rise against us, we will crush them like we crushed their outpost." Yet the old figure's voice rose again, sharp with anger. "You fools. You stare at Earth and see weakness. But what you do not see is the fire inside them. I have studied their wars. I have read their histories. When they are attacked, they do not retreat. They strike back harder than any race I have ever known. You mock them now. You call them soft. But when they answer, you will remember this warning." Her words made the chamber restless. Some sneered, some looked uneasy. For a brief moment the laughter dimmed. But the presiding speaker silenced the whispers with a wave. Old fears, ancient stories, myths carried by traders who never faced humans themselves. I see nothing in their ships but metal scraps. Nothing in their soldiers but fragile bone. Humanity is nothing. Today proves it. The chamber erupted again, voices layered with arrogance. They believed themselves untouchable. They had crushed smaller empires before. They had erased colonies and enslaved worlds. Humanity was simply another mark on their long record of dominance. Their arrogance filled the air like poison, choking reason and drowning out doubt. Then, as if mocking them, the holodisplay flickered. For a second, static filled the chamber. Delegates muttered in confusion. The image shifted, not to Earth, not to the burning outpost, but to something else. A transmission had slipped into the Council's systems. It was the last broadcast from the Outpost. The commander's voice rang through the chamber, clear and sharp. "Outpost under attack. Alien fleet confirmed hostile. This is no raid. This is war." The sound of explosions and fire filled the room. The last words echoed like thunder. "You think this ends here? You have no idea what you have begun." Silence fell. Delegates shifted uneasily in their seats. The image of the commander's burning tower lit their faces in red and gold. Some felt a tremor run through them, though they dared not admit it. The presiding speaker barked out laughter to break the silence. Empty threats, a dying gasp from a dying race. Nothing more. He waved his hand and the display was shut down. "Let us celebrate. Tonight we drink to the fall of humanity." Servants rushed in with bowls and cups, the chamber filling again with laughter and songs. But in the shadows, the old figure stared upward. Her heart burned with dread. She whispered words none dared to hear. "They will not drink with us. They will not sing with us. They are already coming." Far away, beyond the chamber's reach, something stirred in the void. Massive engines lit up the dark, burning blue against the stars. Human warships, black and silent, shifted into formation. They were already moving, already answering. The cliffhanger landed when a tremor shook the council chamber's walls. Delegates looked around in confusion. This was no celebration drum, no song of victory. It was something deeper, a sound that came from far above, from orbit. A low roar echoed like thunder rolling across the skies. The presiding speaker froze, his smile faltering. "What was that?" he whispered. The old figure only closed her eyes and answered softly. "It is the sound of the storm you have called." Deep beneath the oceans of Earth, the war rooms were silent. Only the glow of giant screens lit the faces of admirals and generals seated around a long table. On every display, the Outpost's final transmission replayed again and again, the commander's voice sharp and steady. The burning images of shattered steel, the desperate warning, "This is war." No one spoke for a long time. The silence was heavy, like the weight of an entire planet pressing down. These were not men and women untested by fear. They were veterans, leaders who had studied humanity's bloody history. They did not waste words on grief. Their eyes were cold. Their hands curled into fists. Finally, the Supreme Admiral leaned forward, his voice calm, steady, final. "Mobilize the fleet." The words spread like fire across the globe. In the Pacific, the ocean boiled as massive platforms rose from the waves. Carriers the size of cities climbed into the air, wings opening like steel giants. From underground hangars hidden beneath mountains, warships pushed upward, their black hulls gleaming with blue fire. The skies filled with engines roaring, with steel and flame. In deserts, soldiers stood in endless lines, their armored suits glowing with readiness. They did not cheer. They did not cry. They only waited, helmets in their hands, their faces calm as stone. Every one of them knew what the Outpost's fall meant. Humanity had been struck. And when humanity was struck, it always struck back harder. From the orbital shipyards circling Earth, dreadnoughts activated. These were ships built in silence, kept hidden, designed for one purpose only, to bring annihilation if humanity was ever threatened again. Weapons charged, shields flared, and their hulls shimmered with new technology no alien had ever faced. The people of Earth watched from below. Families stood on rooftops, gazing at the steel monsters climbing into orbit. Children pointed at the glowing thrusters, their small voices asking questions their parents could not answer. No one smiled. No one laughed. The world had gone quiet. Humanity as one held its breath. In the council chambers of Earth's High Command, a strategist whispered to another, "Should we send a message first?" "A warning?" The admiral cut him off with a single look. "They destroyed our outpost. They killed our people. Warnings are over." The command center filled with signals. Fleets moved into position. Entire continents shifted into war readiness. Satellites lit up the skies, forming a shield around Earth. And in the cold of space, fleets gathered into one massive spear aimed at the heart of the galaxy. Reports from scouts arrived. Alien laughter, alien celebrations. The Council of Conquerors mocking Earth, celebrating their so-called victory. The Admiral listened without emotion. His only response was a single word: good. In orbit, ships locked into hyperspace formation. Captains walked their decks, their boots striking steel with steady rhythm. Soldiers strapped into shock chairs, their hands tight on weapons. Pilots whispered to their ships as if they were living beasts. The whole of Earth's war machine moved as one, silent and relentless. A soldier in black armor sat in the hangar of a carrier, staring at the rifle across his knees. His eyes were calm. His heart did not race. He had heard stories from his grandfather, stories of human wars long past. He knew what his people became when blood was spilled. He whispered only 3 words, words that passed among the soldiers like fire in the dark. "We answer now." The fleet rose higher, their black steel hulls glowing against the stars. Dreadnoughts, destroyers, carriers, corvettes, hundreds upon hundreds of ships moving like a single storm. The stars seemed to dim under their shadow. From the moon's surface, engineers watched the fleet vanish into the void. One of them turned to another and asked, "Do you think the galaxy understands what's coming?" The other shook his head. "Not yet, but they will." The Admiral stood in the command center, staring at the giant map of the stars. Red markers showed the alien fleet's homeworld. His hand hovered over it, then pressed down. "That is their heart." "Burn it," engines roared. Hyperspace gates flared with unnatural light. And in one terrible moment, Earth's fleet vanished from orbit. The blue planet hung silent once more, but above it echoed the ghosts of thunder. Somewhere deep in alien space, patrols detected strange disturbances. Their scanners blinked, confused by impossible readings. The officers laughed at first, thinking it was a glitch. But their laughter died as shadows began to emerge from hyperspace. The void tore open. Human warships slid through the darkness, one after another, endless, silent. They filled the skies, blocking out starlight, their weapons glowing with blue fire. The patrol commander's mouth went dry. His hands shook as he whispered to no one in particular, "This cannot be real." A human voice cut across the comms, cold and clear. "You struck humanity. We answer now." In seconds, the first patrol fleet vanished in fire. Alien ships broke apart like toys under the crushing weight of human guns. The battle was over before it had even begun, but this was not victory. This was only the opening move. Earth had unleashed only its first fleet. More waited behind, more were coming. Back on Earth, the Admiral stood silent, his eyes locked on the stars. He knew the Outpost's death had opened a door that could never be closed. Humanity would not stop, not now. Not until the galaxy understood the cost of touching them. The part ended with a cliffhanger as transmissions from the alien capital poured in. Their council chamber trembled. Alarms screamed. Delegates shouted in fear. And above their skies, new shadows began to fall. At the edge of alien space, the night was calm. Stars shimmered like diamonds, and patrol ships drifted lazily across the void. Their crews were careless, some laughing, some half asleep. They had celebrated the fall of the human outpost for days, convinced the fight was already won, but scanners began to blink. Strange readings appeared, faint at first, then stronger. One officer frowned, leaning closer to the screen. "Movement in Sector 12. Large mass approaching." His commander waved it off. "Asteroids." "Ignore it." The signals grew louder. Numbers scrolled down the screens faster than anyone could track. Dozens, hundreds, then thousands. The officer's face paled. "That is no asteroid field. That is a fleet." Before anyone could react, the void itself split apart. A rift of blue fire tore open, stretching across the stars. Out of it emerged shadows so massive they drowned the light. One by one, human warships slid into alien space, their black hulls shining like blades in the dark. The patrol fleet froze. Their commanders scrambled, shouting orders, but their voices shook. No one had expected humanity to move this fast, to arrive with such force. The patrol captain stammered, "Signal the council, now! Tell them Earth has come!" The humans did not wait. Their dreadnoughts opened fire with precision and fury. Blue energy lances crossed the void, ripping through alien shields as if they were paper. In moments, the first patrol ships exploded, their debris scattering across the stars. Soldiers screamed into comms, begging for help, but no help came. From the bridge of the lead dreadnought, a human commander stood silent. His face was stone, his voice colder than the steel around him. He gave only one order: no survivors. Alien ships tried to scatter, but the humans were faster. Fighters swarmed out of carriers like a storm of black steel, tearing through engines and weapons. Whole formations were crushed before they could even fire. The patrol fleet, once so proud, vanished like smoke. The survivors sent desperate messages. They are here. Humanity has come. Their fleet is endless. Their weapons! The signal cut out in a burst of static as another ship fell. Back on the alien capital, council delegates listened in horror. The screams of their patrol fleet echoed across their chamber. Some still clung to arrogance, shouting, "It is only a skirmish. We will crush them with our full might." But others trembled, realizing the truth. Humanity was not probing. Humanity was not testing. This was vengeance. In space, the battle raged on. Human warships cut through alien defenses with terrifying precision. Entire squadrons were erased in seconds. The aliens had numbers, but numbers meant nothing against the storm Earth had unleashed. One alien captain refused to flee. He ordered his ship to ram a human destroyer. His vessel burned across the void like a falling star, colliding with the human hull in a burst of light. For a moment, alien voices cheered. Then the fire cleared, and the human destroyer stood intact, its shields holding, its weapons still blazing. The alien cheers died in silence. The dreadnoughts pressed forward, not slowing, not speaking. Their guns fired in rhythm, their shields glowed like suns. Their hulls were unbroken walls of steel. Humanity had arrived not as prey, not as beggars, but as executioners. In the middle of the chaos, a human broadcast cut across every alien channel. It was calm, measured, and filled with a weight that froze blood. You struck humanity. We answer now. This is not war. This is punishment, alien hearts faltered. Some ships surrendered, powering down their weapons and drifting helpless. But surrender meant nothing to the humans. They had already chosen their path. The First Fleet was here to send a message, and that message was fire. The stars around the system lit up as alien stations, colonies, and refueling docks were reduced to ash. Civilians screamed across open comms, begging for mercy, but the human fleet remained silent. They did not gloat. They did not taunt. They only destroyed. Back on Earth, High Command monitored the battle in silence. No one cheered at the victories. No one clapped for the destruction. Their faces remained hard, their voices steady. This was not about glory. This was about showing the galaxy what happened when humanity was struck. By the end of the hour, the patrol system was gone. Every ship, every station, every defense was erased. Nothing remained but burning wreckage floating across the void. But this was only the beginning. As the last alien transmission ended in static, the human commander gave his next order. His words carried across the fleet like the toll of a great bell. "Advance! We take their capital next." The dreadnoughts turned, engines flaring with blue fire. Their shadows stretched long across the stars as they accelerated toward the heart of the alien empire. On the alien capital world, the council chamber shook as alarms screamed. Reports flooded in, each more horrifying than the last. Whole systems were falling, defenses crushed, fleets gone. The presiding speaker's face turned pale for the first time. "This cannot be," he whispered, but it was. And far above their skies, new signals appeared. Humanity's second fleet was already arriving. Delegates looked up through the transparent dome of their chamber. There, blotting out the stars, the first human dreadnought entered orbit. Its guns glowed red, ready to fire. The alien capital world glittered like a jewel in the darkness. Its towers reached into the clouds, its oceans shimmered with lights, and billions of lives moved below in confidence. They had always believed themselves untouchable. Their fleets stretched across the stars. Their council ruled entire sectors. No one had ever dared bring war to their skies, but tonight the sky itself began to change. At first, people thought it was only a storm. The air shimmered, the clouds shifted, and a deep rumble shook windows across the cities. Children pointed upward, shouting. Traders paused in the markets. Soldiers looked at one another uneasily. The sound grew louder, a thunder that did not belong to nature. Then shadows fell across the world. Giant warships slid from orbit, black and silent, blocking out the suns. Dreadnoughts so vast they looked like floating continents descended, their weapons glowing like molten fire. More followed, carriers, destroyers, swarms of fighters pouring down from the dark. Humanity's fleet filled the skies until the stars themselves disappeared. Panic struck the capital. Civilians screamed in the streets. Some fled underground, others froze where they stood. Broadcasts filled every channel, showing the human fleet spreading across orbit like a plague. The proud empire that had laughed at humanity now watched their world drown under shadows. In the council chamber, delegates shouted in chaos. Alarms wailed, red lights flashing across the glass dome. One delegate pounded the table, screaming, "This is impossible. They cannot be here. They cannot move this fast." Another voice shouted, "It is not one fleet. Reports say 2 more are on their way." "They are everywhere." The presiding speaker tried to steady his voice, but fear leaked into every word. "Activate planetary shields. Arm all defenses. They will not dare fire on the heart of our empire." Orders flew across comms. Defense satellites lit up the skies. Ground cannons powered on, glowing with energy. Fighters launched from hidden hangars, screaming upward to meet the intruders. The Empire threw everything it had into the air, believing sheer numbers would crush the humans. But the humans did not flinch. From orbit, the dreadnoughts opened fire. Beams of blue energy cut through the defenses as if they were made of glass. Satellites exploded in bursts of light. Fighters vanished in waves, their formations shredded before they could even close distance. Ground cannons fired, striking human shields, but the dreadnoughts did not slow. Their black hulls glowed brighter, their shadows pressing heavier across the cities below. On the streets, civilians watched the sky burn. Flashes of fire streaked across the atmosphere. Explosions lit the clouds red. The sound of war thundered louder than storms. Parents clutched their children. Soldiers herded crowds toward bunkers. But deep inside, everyone knew the truth. No bunker could save them now. In one city, a child looked upward and whispered, "Are those gods?" His mother held him close, her eyes wet with fear. "No," she whispered back. "They are worse." Back in the council chamber, desperation filled the air. One elder slammed his staff to the ground, his voice shaking. "You were warned. You were told. You called them weak. You called them soft. But humanity does not stop. Humanity does not forgive. Look above you. This is the price of your arrogance." The presiding speaker roared in anger, but his words were drowned by another tremor. The chamber itself rattled as something massive fired from orbit. A dreadnought superweapon, a weapon no alien had ever seen, charged with a light so fierce it turned night into day. Every eye in the capital lifted to the heavens. Across the skies, a human warship loomed, its weapon glowing brighter, until the entire atmosphere shimmered red. Birds fell silent. Civilians stopped running. The world held its breath. The commander of the dreadnought gave a single order. His voice carried across every frequency, reaching the ears of every soldier, every civilian, every council member. "Fire!" The weapon struck. The skies tore apart. Towers crumbled under the shockwave. Oceans boiled at the edges. Energy cascaded across continents, toppling armies before they could fire again. The sound of the blast roared through the world, shaking mountains and shattering glass across every city. The capital, once a shining jewel, began to burn, but the humans did not stop. One by one, other dreadnoughts charged and fired. Each blast fell like a hammer, breaking defenses, reducing strongholds to ash. Alien fleets in orbit tried to rally, but their ships were torn apart before they could even retreat. Fire rained down from the heavens, endless, merciless. Civilians begged for mercy over open channels. Soldiers cried out in desperation. The council shouted for surrender, but the humans gave no reply. They remained silent, their weapons speaking for them. In the midst of the chaos, the presiding speaker fell to his knees. His eyes wide, his voice a whisper. We thought them prey. We thought them weak. But this is not war. This is extermination. On the surface, survivors huddled in ruins, their eyes fixed on the burning sky. The stars were gone, replaced by the shadows of human fleets. Every horizon glowed with fire. The world shook with the weight of 1,000 guns, and above them the largest human dreadnought shifted, its hull glowing with power. Something even greater than the earlier blasts began to form along its spine. The weapons stretched from bow to stern, lighting the void like a newborn sun. Civilians screamed, soldiers broke ranks, the council chamber descended into pure terror. The capital city stood frozen under the shadow of the human dreadnought. Its weapon glowed brighter and brighter, stretching like a second sun across the sky. People in the streets could no longer run. They simply stared upward, their faces pale, their eyes wide, waiting for the end. Then the weapon fired. The beam tore through the sky, a burning river of light that cut straight into the heart of the city. Towers disintegrated in a flash, bridges melted, streets cracked open as fire rushed through them. The ground shook as if the world itself was screaming. Millions of voices cried out at once, their sound swallowed by the roar of destruction. In seconds, the city that had stood for 1,000 years was gone. Smoke rose where palaces and markets had once stood. Flames spread across the horizon. The ocean nearby boiled, sending steam into the sky. The air itself seemed to burn. Across the world, people saw the blast. Civilians screamed in terror. Armies dropped their weapons. Whole populations fled into bunkers, but the bunkers shook as shockwaves ripped through the ground. No wall could stop the fury raining from orbit. The human fleet did not slow. One dreadnought after another unleashed its fire. Energy beams cut across continents, wiping out military bases, defense hubs, and fleets on the ground. Alien fighters tried to rise again, but they were swatted from the sky like insects. Every strike was precise. The humans were not destroying blindly. They were targeting everything that gave the Empire power, its armies, its ships, its cities of command. The message was clear. This was not just punishment. This was annihilation. In the council chamber, smoke filled the air as ceilings cracked. Delegates choked on ash, their voices desperate. Some screamed to surrender. Others demanded vengeance. But the truth was plain on their faces. There was no victory left to chase. Their empire was burning. One elder fell to her knees, her voice breaking. You called them weak. You laughed when their outpost fell. And now look. Look at what they are. The presiding speaker pounded the table, tears in his eyes, rage in his voice. Why do they not speak? Why do they not answer our calls? Why do they not take hostages or demand tribute? Why are they only burning us? The answer came from a younger delegate, trembling as he spoke. Because they are not fighting for victory. They are making an example. They want the whole galaxy to see. On the surface, alien soldiers watched in horror as their strongholds crumbled. Whole divisions vanished under falling fire. The ground split apart, swallowing tanks and war machines. Generals screamed into comms for reinforcements that would never come. In less than an hour, the Empire's armies had been reduced to ash. Civilians huddled in bunkers, crying as the world shook around them. Parents held their children close. Old men whispered prayers. Some begged over comms, their voices reaching even human channels. Please, we surrender. Spare us. We are not soldiers. We are not your enemy. But the humans gave no reply. The silence was worse than words. The silence meant there was no negotiation, no compromise, only judgment. Above the burning planet, human soldiers stood ready in landing ships. Their black armor glowed under red emergency lights. Their faces were hidden behind steel, their rifles loaded. None of them spoke. They only waited for the order. The commander of the fleet stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, his hands behind his back, his eyes unblinking as the alien world cracked under his gaze. He did not smile. He did not cheer. He only gave his next command. Prepare for planetary landing. We end this on the ground. The landing ships broke from the carriers, swarms of black steel falling through the smoke-filled skies. The sight filled the cities with new terror. Civilians screamed, pointing as the armored figures descended like shadows with wings. On the ground, explosions still roared. Fires raged through the ruins. The air burned with ash and dust. And into that storm of death, humanity's soldiers landed. Their boots struck the broken streets with finality. One alien soldier hiding in rubble watched them descend. He whispered to the comrade beside him, voice shaking, "They're not here to fight. They are here to erase us." The human soldiers spread out, their rifles raised. Every step was steady, every movement precise. They advanced through smoke and fire as if nothing could touch them. Above them, the skies lit up again. Another dreadnought fired, this time at the Empire's last great fortress. The beam cut through mountains, splitting stone like paper, reducing the fortress to glowing rubble. No one inside survived. The planet itself seemed to weep as oceans boiled and cities collapsed. Yet the humans showed no hesitation. They were carrying out a sentence, not a war. In the ruins of the council chamber, the presiding speaker sat broken, his head in his hands. His empire was gone, his armies dead, his people burning. For the first time, his voice carried no arrogance, no pride, only despair. "We thought them soft. We thought them weak. We did not understand. They are not like us. They are final." The cliffhanger struck as human soldiers breached the last council bunker. The doors fell in flames, and the black-armored troops stepped inside, rifles raised. Their commander projected a hollow image of the destroyed human outpost, forcing the council to watch their crime once more. The commander's voice was calm, sharp as a blade. "This is your answer. This is humanity." The soldiers aimed their weapons. The chamber froze in silence, and then the lights cut to black. The council bunker was buried deep under the capital, protected by walls of steel and layers of rock. It had been built to withstand sieges, bombardments, even disasters that could shake the entire world. The council had always believed it was safe here, untouchable. Now the bunker shook with every strike from above. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cracks split the walls. Delegates huddled around the great table, their faces pale, their voices broken. Outside, their empire burned. Inside, their last defenses crumbled. Then the doors exploded inward. Flames and smoke filled the chamber as armored human soldiers stormed inside. Their black suits glowed faintly in the red emergency light, their rifles raised, their movements sharp and precise. They said nothing. Their silence was heavier than any roar. The council froze in terror. Some tried to stand tall, shouting at the soldiers to stop. Others dropped to their knees, begging for mercy. None of it mattered. The humans advanced step by step, their weapons locked on the trembling leaders. At the center of the chamber, a human commander activated a device. A hollow image flickered to life above the council table. It showed the burning outpost, the shattered tower. The commander's final words, "This is war." The image played again and again, forcing the aliens to stare at the crime they had committed. The human commander's voice was calm, but it carried the weight of 1,000 storms. "This is what you chose. This is what you laughed at. Now you will see the cost." The presiding speaker staggered forward, his voice desperate. "We did not know. We did not understand what you would do. We will surrender. We will give tribute. We will give anything. Just spare us." The commander tilted his head, his visor reflecting the flickering flames. "Spare you? You destroyed our outpost. You killed our people. You celebrated their screams. Tell me, what should humanity spare?" No one answered. Silence swallowed the chamber. The delegates trembled under the weight of the question, and none dared speak again. One elder finally rose, her hands shaking. Her voice was weak but steady. "Perhaps this is the lesson. Perhaps we are not meant to survive. You are right to destroy us. But know this, what you do now will not be forgotten. The galaxy will watch. They will see what you are." The commander stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. "Good, that is exactly the point. Let the galaxy see. Let every world remember what happens when humanity is struck. The soldiers fanned out across the chamber, their rifles aimed. The delegates backed away, pressed against the walls, their voices breaking. No, please, we surrender. We yield. But the words rang hollow. They had mocked humanity once, called them weak. Now those same voices shook with fear. Above the planet, the human fleet continued its bombardment. Cities turned to ash. Fortresses crumbled. Oceans boiled. From orbit, the world looked less like a jewel and more like a coal crushed under fire. Reports streamed in from other systems. Human fleets had already burned other colonies, erased other strongholds. The Empire was gone. What remained was only this bunker, this room, these trembling leaders. The commander gave a gesture. Soldiers placed a device on the council table. It projected not only the outpost's fall, but the faces of those who had died there, each one shown in silence. Children, engineers, officers, workers, each life cut short. Each face burned into the council's sight. Remember them, the commander said. You thought them nothing, but their deaths brought this fire upon you. Every city that burns now is because of you. The presiding speaker collapsed to his knees, sobbing. He clutched at the commander's boots, begging, Enough, please, no more. We beg you. But the commander did not move. He did not speak. The silence stretched until it felt like the walls themselves would break under the weight. Then, at last, he raised his hand. His soldiers tightened their grips, their weapons locking into firing position. The council gasped, realizing what was coming. One delegate tried to rush forward, screaming, No! We can rebuild, we can make peace. He was shoved back by the cold steel of a rifle. The commander's voice cut through the chamber, sharp as a blade. Humanity is not cruel. Humanity is final. The words froze the air. For a moment no one breathed. The soldiers stood ready. The council shook with terror. The fate of an empire balanced on the edge of silence. Then the chamber lights flickered. A signal crackled through the commander's comms. A transmission from orbit. The second fleet had arrived. More human ships were entering the skies above, even larger, even darker. The commander lowered his hand slowly, holding the council in suspense. His voice carried the promise of judgment. Your empire ends here. But what happens to you? The choice belongs to Earth. Struck as the soldiers aimed their rifles. The hollow image still burning above the council table, the faces of the dead outpost crew staring down at the leaders who had caused it. The chamber filled with silence, broken only by the sound of human weapons powering up. The bunker walls shook one last time as dust rained down from the ceiling. The alien council cowered against the far wall, their eyes locked on the black-armored humans standing before them. Rifles hummed with power, red targeting beams cutting through the smoke. Every breath in the room felt like it might be the last. The human commander raised his hand. The soldiers froze, waiting. The commander's voice was calm, steady, unshaken. Your empire is finished. Your fleets are gone. Your armies are ash. Your people suffer the fire you unleashed. Now you will face the silence you gave us. The presiding speaker fell to his knees, trembling. We surrender, we yield. Spare us, and we will obey your every command. His words cracked with fear, his hands shaking as he reached forward. But no one touched him. No one answered. The humans only stood in silence, their rifles never moving. The elder, her voice weak, whispered what no one else dared say. They are not here for surrender. They are here to end us. The commander turned to his soldiers. Mark them! Lasers swept across the council. Targets locked on each delegate, their bodies glowing under red light. Some screamed, others sobbed. Some simply closed their eyes. The sound of rifles powering higher filled the chamber, a low growl of judgment. Then came the flash. When the smoke cleared, the council chamber was empty. The rulers of an empire that once stretched across 100 systems were gone, erased in silence. No speeches, no trials, no mercy. Only the sound of boots leaving the chamber as the soldiers withdrew. Above the burning planet, the human fleets hovered. Dreadnoughts loomed like mountains in orbit, their weapons cooling, their shadows covering entire continents. The world below glowed with fire. Oceans boiled at the edges. Cities lay in ruins, their lights gone, their people broken. Across the galaxy, transmissions of the destruction spread like wildfire. Alien empires that had laughed at humanity now watched in terror. Hollow screens on distant worlds showed the fall of the capital, the silence of the council, the endless shadow of Earth's fleets blotting out the stars. No one celebrated, no one spoke. The message was too clear. A single human broadcast played across every open channel. The voice of the commander, calm and final. You struck humanity. We have answered. Remember this day. Remember what happens when you touch Earth. Then the signal cut. Silence filled the stars. On alien worlds, leaders who had once mocked humanity now sat frozen in fear. Armies hesitated to march. Traders whispered in shadows. Civilians spoke the name human in fear, not arrogance. No one dared test Earth again. Inside the flagship dreadnought, the commander stood at the great window, watching the planet burn below. His officers approached, waiting for orders. He gave only one. "Withdraw!" engines roared. The fleet began to turn, leaving the ruined world behind. No words were spoken. No victory songs were sung. Humanity did not need glory. They needed the galaxy to remember. As the warships vanished into hyperspace, the burning planet spun in silence. Ash covered its skies. Smoke rose from its oceans. The empire that had ruled for centuries was now a graveyard, but the fire did not stop at one world. Reports flowed in from across alien space. Human fleets had struck their colonies, their fortresses, their shipyards. One by one, every heart of their empire was shattered. What was left was dust, echoes, and fear. On Earth, the news arrived in silence. Screens lit up with reports of victory. Families gathered in their homes, watching the images of the fallen empire. No one cheered. No one clapped. They simply watched, their faces still, their eyes heavy. Humanity had answered. Humanity had burned a world. A mother held her child close, whispering, "They will not hurt us again." But her eyes were not proud. They were tired, filled with the weight of what had been done. In the war room beneath the oceans, the Supreme Admiral stood with his generals. His voice was calm, without triumph. "The message is sent. They will remember," one general asked, "and if they forget?" The Admiral turned his gaze to the stars glowing across the map. "Then we remind them." Above, the fleets reassembled, larger now, darker, endless. They did not rest. They did not disarm. They waited. Because humanity knew the galaxy would watch, whisper, fear, and eventually test them again. And when that day came, Earth would answer with the same fire. On a distant world, an alien child asked his father, "Who are the humans?" The father's hands shook as he replied, "They are the silence after fire." Fell heavy as the camera pulled back to show not just one fleet, not two, but entire armadas forming around Earth. Hundreds of warships, black and unbroken, waiting like wolves in the dark. The galaxy had seen the storm, but this was only the beginning.